What's up, you guys? Welcome back to another segment of Chats with Cath with me, Cath. So, buckle up, sit down, get comfortable, get a cup of tea. I think this is going to be a very long episode because I have a guest speaker, my little sister, Chicken.
Hey, give me a minute. I'm sending you the video so I can start the voice recording. Give me a minute.
How are you sending me the video when you're recording?
I've used the iPad recorder before. Yes, it's recording.
Are you sure?
Yes, I am sure it is recording. And then
Because you know how sad it would be for you to do this live. It would be so sad. Okay.
And she is going to be joining me on this journey of discussing growth from grief and the shared grief experience that she and I have shared. So I hope you enjoy this episode. I hope you learn from it, take from it. Hey, maybe let's discuss it a bit more because we've all been through a lot. Pandemic, recession, the world is crashing. It's just a mess. Earth is just a mess.
Okay,
please introduce yourself and tell everybody who you are to me.
Okay. Hello, my name is Chenge and I'm Catherine's younger sister.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you're a student.
I'm a student. I'm 20. Yeah, I'm 20. You're 20? Look at my mustache, shawty. But yes, I'm 20 years old. Turning 21 in June. So I will also link my account details in the bio for money.
So, Chicken, today we're going to be discussing our shared experience of us navigating grief. So, in this portion of the podcast, we're going to be discussing our brother. So, he's my younger brother who passed away in 2020. And then it's Chingetai's older brother. And yeah, so please tell me a brief experience, please, can you go into detail and tell us what has your experience through this shared grief experience been like for you? From your perspective, what was it like when we found out that our brother passed away?
Oh, wow. Okay, I'm not gonna lie. It was genuinely a roller coaster of emotions for me because when he had passed away, there was a lot going on at the time in terms of the fact that I was a matric and I was writing prelims, and it was also during the COVID era. So I had COVID, so obviously I couldn't visit him because I was under quarantine. So then it was just a lot seeing everything happen, and it was very surreal in the experience that it didn't feel like he had gone, because when he before he left, my last words to him were, try, like, promise me you're not gonna die, try not to die. And he's like, yeah, I promise, and stuff like that. And that's like the last sentence I've ever had with him in general.
So I can imagine for you it was just what the actual you promised kind of thing, and I'm sure you're feeling extremely in denial, in a state of shock that you just didn't know what to do with yourself because you were just what is happening here? And in a sense you also had to step up as well, and you grew up quicker than most people. Your hair turned white overnight, you know, because you ended up taking up a lot of responsibilities and being an emotional clutch for a lot of people, our parents included, and also for other peeps, our cousins who were very close to him as well. That must have been that's a lot to take on, considering what you were going through. Yeah, tell us, what were you going through?
Oh, wow. I would say that it was like a roller coaster of emotions, because obviously, like, I had to put my guard up when everything was happening, because I saw that like nobody was in the right mind or in the right space to do everything. So like I knew that, like, usually when it's like that, Taco was the one to like take care of everything, and I'm like, okay, since he's not here, I'm the one that had to make the calls. I'm the one that had to write the emails and everything. And I'm the one that had to actually call my own school and speak to them
Yeah.
about what was going on. And they were surprised that I was the one that called them, and obviously, like, not my
Yeah.
parents. So it's very strange for them to like hear, oh yeah, I can't come to school. Why? Oh yeah, no, you see, my brother passed on. So like there's a lot going on right now.
Yeah.
So yeah, they was like, is this a joke? I'm like, no, I sent the death certificate. And they're like, wow. Oh wow, okay. And
Okay.
And like, what was that for you? Because as you guys are determining, Chengetai was actually in matric when all this was happening, and we were in mid-pandemic. Yeah, no, it was crazy. And didn't he like?
I know it's not funny, but it is funny to me. I'm such an older sibling and I'm horrible. But
It's funny because he was your date to your matric dance on Zoom. I will never forget.
hey man, he was like a very bubbly person, and I couldn't
yeah,
have any boys, and the only boy in the house was my brother. So I'm like, hey man, killed two
your
birds with
brother
one
and
stone.
father.
You think dad would have done no, but
No.
my friends loved him though. I can say like a majority of my friends that did get the privilege of meeting
yeah.
him felt like he was an older brother to him as well. So like obviously when I told them the
Mm.
news, they were crying, they were upset. They even joined
Yeah.
like the live stream for his funeral and everything because he had built
Mm.
such a connection with them that it didn't feel like, oh no, that's like Chengetai's brother. They could be like, okay, this is like Taku, we know who
Yeah.
he is and
This is
stuff
my
like that.
brother too.
Yeah.
I can like attest the same. Like, he was so ingratiated in like both our lives, and he was quite close with like a lot of my friends too. And to them, like they also felt like, oh my gosh, we just lost a younger brother in retrospect, because there was also a time he used to work with me, like he was interning here, and it was so much fun for him. Like he had the best time. I think if people were to remember anybody working from where I was, they would remember him, not me. And that is the truth. And yeah, no, like I think that was like the first stage of grief. Like for you, you were in like denial, and for me, I was in like shock because I was just like, what is happening? And you stepped up like on an emotional level where you were busy supporting other people's emotions, not yours. And then with me, I was like in shock because I was just like, what is happening? And then having to do things like go to Home Affairs, get his ID cancelled. Like that was a triggering experience for me because they make it seem so final. Like they cut it up and everything, and you're just like there, like you feel like you just got shot. And yeah, like I was just in shock, and that was horrible. So like that was like, the first stage of grief for both of us.
I was more angry at him than I was
Yeah.
sad
Yeah.
because everyone was like crying. Like obviously I did cry. I'm not inhumane. Like I did
Yeah.
cry, but like during 2020, throughout 2020, I was genuinely angry at him and everything that had
Mm.
happened. Because I even remember, like, when you lose a loved one, you get like these feelings, like, you get dreams and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
I remember I had a dream about him. I think this was one of the very first dreams I started having about him. And then in the dream, he was just apologizing to me. He's like, "No, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. Stuff
Mm.
like this wasn't supposed to happen." And
Yeah.
obviously, like, I was like still in denial. I'm like, "No, you broke a promise and stuff like that." And like, I
Mm.
was like still being mad at him in the dream. Obviously, I resolved the situation in the dream because that would be trauma
Mm.
if I didn't.
Yeah.
But like at that time, I was very, very angry with him. And the fact that his spirit knew that I was angry and had to come and physically tell me that of how sorry he was.
Yeah.
It kind of changed how I felt. Like, okay, he did care. Okay, what happened
Yeah.
happened because human nature. And yeah.
Yeah.
No, for sure. I mean, this goes into like the second stage of grief. Like you felt like pain, and I think I felt more guilt because like I felt like I wasn't really there for our parents the way they wanted me to. I kind of just like went into self isolation. and I'm a naturally introverted person. So obviously my response to everything was like flight, fight and flight. Like I just disappeared into the ether. And like with you, like you felt like a lot of pain because you were taking on everyone's emotions amongst everything else going on with you.
It was very frustrating because in that moment it wasn't a thing of, I'm not gonna lie, I didn't really get to enjoy my matric the way I wanted to. Like obviously like the beginning of matric was amazing. It felt so free, before COVID and everything. Like I was having so much fun with friends, I was living my best life, and then obviously like all these events are happening, and now I feel like I'm at this stagnant point in life where like, okay, I'm still trying to be a kid and like enjoy what's going on. I'm trying to enjoy being 18. I just turned 18. I'm trying to enjoy like finally being legal. And I couldn't because then I'm like, okay, I need to be an emotional support manual to my mom, to my dad, to my sister, to all these family members, because every single day I would wake up to everyone crying around me. I would be the one having to get ready and stuff like that, which is why I also had to learn how to drive early so that I could drive myself to school, because people weren't in the right mind space to even take me to school. So like there was like a lot going on that I had to endure at such a young age. Well, not a young age, I was an adult, but like at the speed at which it was happening.
It's such a traumatic
Experience, especially like in such a formidable time of your life. And like I remember like when this happened, you were in the midst of like exams and everything. And I remember like your school was just like, hey, if Chingatai cannot handle exams this year, she can take them next year. And you're like, shut that. I'm not doing matric again. I'm not doing matric again. Like you powered through that. You're like, if there's anything, despite what has happened this year, I'm going to finish matric.
Yeah, no, I'd already taken so many L's, and for the older people out there that don't know what an L is when you take a loss. Yes, my generation doesn't say L, loss. We say L. We took an L, right? So
Z.
I took a lot of L's that year, and one L I refused to take was to repeat matric. I knew that Taco wouldn't want me to repeat matric. I knew I didn't have it in me to go through matric again, having to write those essays and the portfolios and everything. And it was just too much that I had to put up even a further wall up in myself to make sure, like, okay, right now we're shoving down every single ounce of emotion. And yes, I know that was unhealthy, but I needed to do that in order to focus on my books as much as I could to get as far as I could. That makes sense.
And you did, like you passed and like your bride, you were so happy and you did so well in like some subjects as well. Like, no, listen, you passed. You did.
I didn't pass the way I wanted to.
Yeah.
I didn't
Like,
pass the
look
way.
at this girl who's being an overachiever. She wanted like four distinctions, but like you did get like two, so you're fine.
I'm happy where I'm at now. In the beginning, I wasn't. It was, yeah, but I'm happy where I am now.
Yeah. What about like, I think we touched on this. It was for the third stage of grief, which was like anger and bargaining. And would you say that you felt like, would you say that like you felt like, where were you on the spectrum? Were you angry and bargaining? Or I think you would be more angry because like obviously you being a crazy Gemini, like Takura made you a promise and then he broke it and you felt rage. And with me, because I was guilty and feeling like I wasn't there for you and stuff like that, like you feel, I felt like I was bargaining a lot. Like I would say that like I would let like family members and you get away a lot more with a lot of things, like pretty much letting you do whatever you wanted whenever you wanted, because I was just like, I mean, she's already lost so much, just give it to her kind of thing.
I mean, it was anger. I wouldn't say I was bargaining more. I didn't really have anything to like compare with in that
Mm.
time besides like I don't know, a lot changed. A lot changed my perspective and how I did a lot of things, but I was still very, very angry and
Yeah.
annoyed. And I think I only started experiencing sadness in 2021. That's when I
Mm.
actually started being like actually sad. I think that's when I actually properly started grieving because I
Yeah.
didn't allow myself to grieve in that time period that was appropriate to people, because obviously grief is a spectrum. Grief can, it doesn't go overnight, it's very, very long. But
Yeah.
I felt like I didn't grieve when other people were grieving, and I grieved at a different time, which did affect me, and it did affect the friendships and the family relationships that I had, because I am a very bubbly person. I am a very energetic person. And during that time, I was just quiet. I was so closed off. I didn't speak to people. I didn't want to go outside. I really didn't want to do anything but be in my own space, which is worrying, obviously, for mom and dad, because they're like, she's usually outside. She's usually not home. Why is she home? You know? So that was also kind of weird. So I think the bargaining per se that I did was to like be alone. I wanted to be alone a lot of the time.
Yeah, I can understand. That goes into like the fourth stage of grief, which was like depression, and like almost like that loneliness and isolation that you're feeling. And like I could definitely tell that you were struggling, and I could definitely tell that like you were like really withdrawn, and you're such a bubbly extroverted person, so you were quite withdrawn in 2021. And yeah, thank God for like the family members and like the friends you had as well, and me coming in just to like try like show you that there was more to live for, kind of thing, because I think like you were feeling so lonely and so depressed, and you felt like you did not know where to go. And that was sad. It's heartbreaking. And as an older sister, like I just, because I've been caring for you for so long and looking after you for so long, unfortunately for me, I still feel like I'm responsible for you. So I definitely wanted to be there for you during that time.
I mean, yeah.
Not you yawning.
I'm genuinely so tired. School is very frustrating. But I have an off day, so yay.
Yeah.
Um but besides that, depression, I wasn't really a depressed person. Let me not lie to you, because I think I became depressed because of my situation. And I
Mm.
knew what depression was, and I saw it happen with my friends and what they would go through, the type of
Yeah.
depression they had. And then when I had finally experienced it myself, it was a thing of like, whoa. It was a shock, because I didn't really have mental health issues to the point that I would need to go to a psychologist
Yeah.
or go to get medication. Obviously, when I had my mental health issues, it was a thing of like I allowed myself to feel what I was feeling and
Yeah.
experience everything like that, but it wasn't anything serious to the point that I actually needed professional help.
Yeah.
And when I did become depressed, there'd be days where I wouldn't eat. And it was during COVID, so I needed to eat to take my medication. And I wouldn't eat.
Yeah.
And
You lost a lot of weight that time.
mom would like force me to eat. She's like, I need to eat if I want this medication to work. Because at the same time,
Yeah.
COVID was quite serious. It was actually quite scary because I couldn't breathe, I couldn't move. There's a lot going
Yeah.
on when that first strain was hectic. It's not as like painful as like the other strains, but like
Yeah.
at that time it was just like so still new to everyone.
Yeah.
And me being stubborn and not eat, I wouldn't say stubborn, but me not having the will to
Like a
eat.
balanced diet.
Yeah, it kind of made mom like more worried than she really was, because she's like, okay, I
I
just lost
can't
my
have another child
child,
go through.
and now my
Yeah.
other child isn't here eating, she's not getting any better. And like mom went through a lot of stress having to carry a lot. Mom had to carry a lot of things. Both mom and dad actually had to carry a lot of things. Because I remember dad also
Mm.
wasn't that present at the time as well, because he was trying to do anything and everything that he could to like still be able to provide for us, at the same
Yeah.
time grieve his son, and at the same time constantly keep himself busy so that he wouldn't have to like sit and be like, shit, this is happening, this is what's going on.
Yeah.
He was very busy, and like I think mom was lucky in the sense that, not lucky, but I think the person who had the opportunity to like fully grieve and like go through all that, like that whole process and everything, was mom in a way. And I think like we kind of just like stamped down on like our own thoughts and feelings in terms of how to manage the whole thing. And listen, there's some days where like bursts of grief will come through and I'll be feeling sad, especially closer to the time he passed and closer to his birthday and closer to Christmas time, because like those were his favorite periods. So yeah, it wasn't easy.
I like the fact that we still think about him, because there were times where like I would forget him. Like, I know that sounds so bad and so terrible, but like there would
Yeah.
be days where I'm like, wait, what does he look like again, and stuff like that, and like that would be like so scary, because I'm like, how could I forget what
Do
my
you
brother
forget?
looks like? You know, it's
Yeah.
been like I've known him for all my life, and it just took me one day to forget what he looks like. And I
Yeah.
always took that as a cue for my brain to like, like go through happy memories and not the sad memories. Because even when I went
Which
to my
is great.
psychologist about everything that was going on, it was funny. It was funny because she's like, you've been through like so much, you've gone through hell and back, and you're standing
Yeah.
here. And a lot of people, when they know what I went through, they ask me, how have you not, like, like offed yourself, like, you just like,
Oh
and
gosh.
like, it, I
That
just was
shows
like,
testament to like your own inner strength as well. And I'm so proud of you because, like, honestly speaking, with everything that was going on, like, you had been through the most of the most. Like, you felt like God signed you up for a war you didn't subscribe to. And you're just like, when did I sign up? Like, honestly. But then you pulled through and you definitely pushed yourself to come out from the other side. And that actually goes into, I think we already spoke about like the fifth stage of grief, which is depression and reflection. And like now going into like the upward turn, like the whole reconstruction of life, and like going into the last stage of grief as well, acceptance and hope. Like you really, it took a long time. I'm not saying like this happened overnight, but it took a long time for you to turn things around and choose life, choose to eat your youth, like to enjoy your life and everything, because he was such a full of life person and he loved life. He loved all these other adventures and things like that. And like I'm so appreciative of like being his big sister and appreciative of you being my younger sister, because you guys honestly, I think looking after you and taking care of you and getting to know you as individuals definitely made me a better person. It taught me to share, it taught me the value of friendship, and it taught me the value of like family, like through the two of you. I know people are like, what about your parents? Yes, but like, you know parents are there, and like they kind of put you together with like the set of people for life. Like, kind of didn't have a choice. So they taught me that I needed to like grin and bear it and like make it work with the two of you. And I'm grateful for it.
I
I'm
mean, I'm
grateful.
I'm
Grateful for
grateful
it.
that I had two older siblings. I mean, when people find out that I have siblings, it's actually funny because they're, wait, you have siblings? I guess I have an older sister and I had a brother, and they're like, what? You give only
Who's the
child
content your
vibes.
lifestyle?
And I'm like, no, I'm the last born. They're like, oh, okay, that kind of makes it. That kind of cancels out. They're like, okay, but then how old's your sister? And I'm like, we have like a 12-year difference. And they're like, wait, what? And I'm like, yeah, my sister,
She raised me.
yeah.
She's fine. You're fine, right?
I'm,
You're fine.
I'm okay. My sister 12 years, my brother 9 years. I'm just here vibing out there. Like, how come you don't like show that you have siblings? And I'm like, how does one show that you have it? Like, I must wear a shirt. I'm a lost born with two siblings. That doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense
Whatsoever. It doesn't
really
make
doesn't make
sense.
sense. And that's okay. But yes, to
Yeah.
everybody else that doesn't know, I have two siblings. Right? I have a sister and I had a brother, and I am the last born. It's just I talk a lot. I'm a puppy. I papa a lot. So yeah, that's why it seems
You're
like I'm
so
not.
wild.
I wouldn't say
You're so
I'm
wild.
I'm unique. I'm unique.
Yeah, you are. That's definitely true. Then going into, we're about to close off now. Like, what do you wish you could have done differently in your grief journey?
I would have allowed myself, like number one, I would have allowed myself to grieve when
Yeah.
I felt was appropriate at that time when everyone was sharing their emotions. I wish I had grieved in that moment because it did come back to bite me in like 2021 and last year, where like I'd be doing things like I remember it was so hard for me to see other people with their brothers that I
Yeah.
couldn't really like register that. Like I felt envious of them, or like whenever they would like speak down on their brothers and stuff like that. Like I would get so worked up because I'm like, at least you have one, at least you can still do this. At least you still have somebody
Yeah.
to like look out for you. And then like people would wonder, why am I getting so worked up? Like this is just like how we are, this is how siblings react and stuff like that. And then be a thing of like, I don't have that anymore. And there are family members out there that are like brotherly figures to me, obviously, but nobody will be my brother the way he was my brother.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
And then, like, well, I think you've already answered this, like, what grief has taught you. But, like, let's close off with what three lessons would you depart in your grief journey and your growth?
Oh wow. Number one, it's okay to be vulnerable. It is genuinely okay to be vulnerable, but be careful of who you're vulnerable to. I know that kind of sounds contradictory, but like it's okay to be vulnerable in general to like your loved ones and to friends that care about you, but also sometimes when you're being vulnerable to the wrong people and you don't know that they're the wrong people, they tend to not care at all what you're going through or what is happening to you, because they're only with you for their own self gain. They're not there with you in general, because I say life is like an elevator. There's people that are going to bring you up, there's people that are going to bring you down, and certain people are just going to get off at their next stop when they serve their purpose to you. And then number two would be go to therapy, guys. Therapy is not what people think it is.
Life.
It's not like, oh no, I'm going to therapy, and it's not a bad thing. They genuinely help people. They got degrees to help you get through things, and don't hold back on things. Because I know a lot of people, depending on their culture or their beliefs or their mindset, they think, oh no, therapy is for
It's like, why do I need to speak to other people for help? It's like, you need help, ma'am.
if you think you're okay, if you think you're not okay, you're not gonna be okay. Nah, sometimes your brain is a powerful thing. It is a very, very powerful thing. And if you're feeling depressed or sad or angry and feel like your feelings aren't being validated and you are hating on yourself for that, you need to think about seeing a therapist, buddy, because it's that's not healthy. That's not cute. It's kind of worrying. If you
It's like you need a therapist, ma'am, sir, whatever.
And I
And
think
what's the final thing that you'd want to depart?
final thing, a lesson and growth that I would take with me is that always always remember your loved one and always live life with them in a way, like, say, obviously that they're not there, but like
There.
still live your life like they're there, so you don't feel like that empty void in you. Like, visit them, and if you feel like you never have
Like their grades
any,
and, you know.
yeah, if you feel like you don't have any motivation, like let's say you're studying for a test, whether it be an animal, whether it be a family member or friend, like if you're studying for a test and you have no motivation, be like, I'm doing this for this person, I'm doing this for thing, because sometimes you feel like you're doing things for yourself and you don't get that same motivation, and having somebody else as your motivation could help you do better and just grow. And I realized that has actually helped me grow a lot in the grief process. Even my head of department can speak for me in saying that I have grown so much from the beginning when I had started in university to where I am now, my mindset now, how I am
I see
academically.
it.
See it. I definitely see it because like from the type of person you were, like I feel like from the beginning you kind of disassociated. It was almost like your body was operating on autopilot. And then to now where you've embraced and have accepted this is how it is now, but like you're not letting it cripple you and let it like define you and be like that's the only thing. Because from my perspective, I was just like, oh my gosh, I should like, take some lessons from little chicken here, because like there was a point where my grief was like literally all consuming. Like I felt like I couldn't see anything beyond that. Like I felt like that girl who was like, it's like, you're the girl with the dead brother. And I was just like,
Like, why am I so hard? Yeah.
No, I'm not even
Why am
gonna
I
lie
so
to
mean
you.
to myself?
I'm not
Why
even
am
gonna
I
lie
so
to
mean
you.
to myself?
I'm going
Like,
to expose my friend's file. I'm not gonna say which friend it is. If you know the story, you know the story. I have a friend, my best friend, one of my best friends, and obviously we know Zimbabwean fathers, they are not great with remembering your name. So they remember you based
oh
off
no.
an event. Right. So whenever I go there and I say, hi, someone's dad, let me say S. Hi, S's dad, how are you? They're like, hi. And then S would be like, Dad, don't you remember Chenge Time? Who's Chenge Time? Like, you know Chenge Time. You mean the one with the dead brother? Okay. Hi. So I'm convinced her dad does not like me, but I know her mom adores me. But I know it's all fun and games, and I know he doesn't mean it like that. He is genuinely just trying to create banter. But
but like, when it's like still raw, it's like, really, sir? Like, that's below the belt.
no, he didn't do it
Like
when it
that.
was still raw. Shame, he didn't do it when it was still raw. It's just the thing of like, oh yeah, you're the one, the brother that passed away, and I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, that's me.
How
But like,
are
yeah,
you?
like that's how I
I
identify.
was just in a cloak of like despair. It was horrible. And I'm so grateful for the family and friends that like were there for me and supporting me, and like you as well, because like you guys definitely helped me grow and like really see the life that's worth living. And because you know me, I travel quite a lot, and there was a point where I actually didn't travel for a certain period of time because of it, because I was just like, well, I don't want to go anywhere, what's there to celebrate, kind of thing. Like I kind of just stopped living. And I think I've grown from that. Like I've started living like from last year. And yes, guys, it sounds wild, but like from last year, I felt I could start living and start being happy and start like living life for myself, and like start making sure that I made sure I knew what was important to me, the people important to me, and have them around me, kind of thing. So like, you, my parents, and my friends, like you guys know who you are. Like you guys have been there for me. Like I cannot even tell you. Like you've really helped me through this grieving process and helped me like really grow from this grief, because honestly, I think if there was one lesson that I could impart, it was do not feel bad for feeling sad, because for me, I felt like I was sad all the time. So I felt bad and I never spoke about it. And then people were like, no, you need to speak about it because we actually genuinely want to be there for you the way you are there for us. So,
Yeah, it's wild. Yeah.
Life is funny, guys. Life is full of interesting events. That's all I can say.
At least
we can talk about him without
that's
feeling
true.
perpetually sad all the time. Because I think, like, if we were to try talk about him, like, in 2020, 2021, it would not be the easiest thing to discuss. Like, we would just be in
Cry.
shambles. In
Yeah.
shambles, shambles, shambles. But, like, now, whenever I think of him, I just think happiness. I just think of all the good times, and I'm just very grateful that I had all those good times. I'm so grateful that I have people around me who love me and care for me.
Oh,
And
100%.
yeah, you're cheerleading me on. And you too. I
I
cheer
mean,
you on,
Cath,
chicken.
Huh? What?
I cheer you on, chicken. I'm here
Thanks.
for you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah.
Wow, guys, I just told my sister I loved her. And she's like, I appreciate you. You know those people who are like, I love you, and then they're like, oh, thanks. That's
You know
her.
what's funny is that my friends actually get excited whenever I say I love you because I usually when someone says I love you, I'm like I share the same affection towards you.
Not you being cold and emotionless like our brother.
No, I'm nonchalant. Like I'm a very, very bubbly person. Like don't get me wrong. I am a
And that's hard for
very
me to tell you that I care about you because you know I don't just tell people that I care for them. You
yeah.
know this.
I mean I love you too. You know I love you. I genuinely I do love you. Okay, okay. I do
Mhm.
love you. But I'm
Mhm.
just a nonchalant person. Like I'm very bubbly and optimistic, but at the same
Yeah.
time I'm like socially awkward and at the same
Yeah.
time I'm like very
Well, how,
nonchalant.
how do
Well,
you,
how do you feel like about your socially awkwardness? Like, where do you think that came from? Do you think it came from my influence, Takura's influence, your parents?
I would say everybody, all of you kind of messed me up, really, because I had to like kind of watch all of you in a social setting, and it was awkward. I don't know. I mean, yeah, how mom and dad react to people they meet, how you and Tuck react to people you meet. So with me, like I have I don't know, my anxiety is very very weird. Like I have social anxiety, but don't have social anxiety. Like when
yeah.
thinking of the event that I'm gonna attend or like that I'm gonna do, I'll be so anxious. And then the minute I get there, I'm like, hey, and people are like, oh my gosh, it's Chenge. And I'm like, yeah, you know,
I
and like,
know.
it's like out the window. Like that social anxiety I was feeling is like out the window because I don't think I can go to a social event if there's not at least two people that I know.
Yeah.
Like, not even know, like,
I'm
oh
like
yeah, we
that.
met
I
once.
don't
I
want.
don't speak to people I don't know, period. And like, I think that's why you were just like, you and Takura's, like your friends and Takura's friends thought like I was an absolute bitch because this thing is going on YouTube, so I don't want to be demonetized. But there was a time where, like, Takura's friends, you know who you are, were Heil Hitlering me in my own house because of the stories Takura would tell them about me because they made it seem like I was
No,
evil
but
incarnate. Like
no,
he was
but
just like you're my big sister, guys. She is the most evil. And the thing is, I think with the age differences that we have, and I think this can be another episode entirely, but like Takura and I were 4 years apart. So when I was in matric, he was in grade eight. And then he will
wow.
never let people forget that I terrorized him and
Yeah.
colluded with other matrics to terrorize him in grade eight whilst I was in matric. And I'm like, I'm sorry. I'm failing to see how I did wrong in society. Let me tell you why. First of all, you should look to your parents because of the age difference that we have, okay? Secondly, it's not my fault that like you were in grade 8 and I was in matric. Okay, it was just circumstantial. And thirdly, I feel like I was nice. Like from all the horrible things that could have happened to you in grade 8, it didn't happen because I was in matric. But then now there was a reputation about me where people thought like I was so mean. And then when they meet me, they're like, you lied. She's delightful. He's like, wait till the lights go out and you all go home.
Yeah, no, that's true. Who tells a child, I was a baby, I was still in primary, what a Clef McClocky is? I don't know what that is, but it
It was
traumatized
made
me
up.
till this day. People were actually be like, oh no, the Tokoloshi. I didn't care about the Tokoloshi because I was raised on whoever the hell the Clef McClocky was, and you were evil for telling me about that as a baby.
They don't know, like, for context, you guys, older siblings, I'm sure you guys have made up stories about fictional characters, okay, from your imagination to entertain yourselves. But then younger siblings, unfortunately, became victim to circumstance, said stories. So the thing is, when I invented Clef McClockies, okay, I had no idea that these two would believe me for a whole decade. Let that sink in.
Would we
A decade. A decade. They believed my imaginary figment of my imagination who would terrorize children. And because they didn't eat their vegetables or do their homework, that was me parenting. Let that sink in. That was me parenting. And they believed me for a decade.
I had sleepless nights.
She couldn't sleep because of this thing. And like at some point when I was just like, Clef McClockies is not real. And then she's just like, I felt like I had told her the Easter Bunny was a joke. I felt like I just told you that the Easter Bunny is not coming.
And I was just like, but like, you're 10. How can you still believe in Clef McClockies? And Takra as well. Takra as well. He believed in Clef McClockies until he was like 12. And then eventually he continued the charade until you were 10. So can you imagine how long this thing has been going on? More than a decade.
The fact that when he was my age, he was still telling me this horrible thing that would come up my butthole and stop me from pooping because I didn't eat a carrot. That is what I had to live with.
I do not take responsibility in you not questioning and not questioning.
For my 4 times table that this thing would come and eat my toes
She
at night.
believed me. For 10 years, this girl believed me that this thing was real. 10 years.
Evil.
This thing is real.
Jail. That's what I have to say, jail time.
Girl, bye. Well, thank you so much, Chicken, for coming onto my podcast. And thank you for sharing and exposing me in something that all older siblings dabble in, which is childhood trauma, emotional damage. But I think I have improved and evolved into being a better big sister. And I hope that we can move on from this. And I definitely will have Chingitai here again, where we can do a part 2 of being an older sibling, and she can tell me what it's like being a younger sibling. But thank you, Chicken. I will love and leave you. And thank you so much for joining my podcast.
You're welcome.
You're still traumatized about Clef McClockies.
Yes. Yes. I'm ending my video.
Okay, bye. With that being said, you guys, go with God and see you soon in the next episode. Ciao!